hilarious. So, was it a hard transition from basketball life to get into, essentially like a hospital work atmosphere now? Was that like a hard transition to get into?
Yeah, I mean, it was in the fact that I really had no idea what I wanted to do after basketball was done. And I mean, I'm looking at like all job options. I'm like, maybe I could be a wedding videographer, like because I had done like video production stuff in college. And I was like, maybe I'll start a business, or maybe I'll who knows, man, like drive an ice cream truck. I was wide open to doing all kinds of things, but I didn't really have like a set, okay, I'm definitely doing this. And so I said, let me start out with this medical device stuff and jump into it and run. And I mean, it was hard. Like I wasn't a pre-med major. So I'm like, well, I've hurt all those parts of the body, but I don't really know, everything that I need to or want to, for this job yet. So, it was a lot of, just time and hard work going into learning what it takes to do this whole new career and actually bring value to all the people I work with and the doctors in hospital.
That's awesome. So, I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dog in the background. He's barking a lot, and
It
I don't
was a
know why.
faint. I thought you were woofing at me for a second.
I'm moved for that. No, I mean,
Growling at me.
if you want me to, I should give it a try. But so I mean, that's really cool. But like, let's take it a little step back now. What made you start to get into basketball? Essentially, when did you start getting into that?
When I was a kid, I just always wanted to be playing sports. From the moment I was like 2, 3, 4 year old, my dad's got like pictures of me in the driveway hitting tennis balls with a tennis racket and kicking the soccer ball, and he put a hoop up in our driveway. And so I love sports. I love playing and playing it, whether it was just with my buddies, playing pickup football at the park, or I actually was really into tennis early on too.
Really?
Yeah, up to like, excuse me, like 10, 11, 12 years old, I played a ton of tennis. We lived in Georgia for a few years, and the weather's nice year round. So I would just play for hours and hours, went to all kinds of camps. And then we moved up to Chicago and, just really fell. I kind of got a little bit burnt out at tennis, but still loved soccer and baseball and basketball and football. And so I played them all. It's funny, my parents wouldn't let me play football for so many years because, like they have weight limits and you'll just be on the offensive line. You're just going to get hurt. But I love playing football. So finally they kind of, they gave in, and by my sophomore year in high school, they let me play. And I went out and like had a blast, man. And this one game on Friday before our Saturday game, my coach says, Smith, tomorrow you're going to catch a touchdown and you're going to dunk it through the goalpost because you never dunked for me when I was coaching you in basketball. I was like, okay. And meanwhile, like we never threw the ball. I was a tight end. Well, sure enough, he calls this play. They throw it to me. I score a touchdown. And I dunked it through the goalpost, and the referee flags me for like excessive celebration. It was, and my coach loved it. It was hilarious.
That is awesome. Like, I wanted to play football when I was younger as well, but my mom never let me because I was always about baseball, and like I almost played that year round. So she never wanted me to get hurt, and I was like, oh, like I definitely would have liked to try football. I mean, I feel like you would have been a stud tight end though. Like, I mean, you're tall enough.
Oh man, I mean, I'm a huge target. Like in baseball, I played first base and pitcher, and even like shortstop and stuff. I was like the tallest shortstop ever, like 6'7" shortstop in high school. But mostly I was like pitcher at first. And man, if you couldn't hit me at first base as your target, then you should probably find a new
There's something
position
wrong with
for
you. So, when did you actually hit your growth spurt then? When did you, grow?
I never had a growth spurt, oddly enough. I was always just like this really tall, just steadily growing kid, just always kind of off the charts. And I remember being in 6th grade in junior high, and I was taller than like all the teachers. Like, it was crazy. But at like 8th grade, I was about 6'4". By freshman year, I was 6'6", and then
Jeez.
6'7", 6'8". Yeah. So I mean, I was always just kind of a tall kid. And fortunately, like I didn't have too much like awkwardness in terms of coordination. So that always kind of helped. But yeah, I mean, it was I was always just kind of a big kid.
Well, I mean, nowadays, if you were a high schooler that tall, I'm sure there would have been, YouTube close of value, and ESPN would have picked you up and be like, ESPN top 100. This kid's gonna be a stud. That's what it would have.
I don't know about top 100, but it was one of those things where like, my mom had to bring my birth certificate like to all these like soccer games and basketball games and stuff. Like, no, he really is 13 years old. Like because the parents are like mad. They're like, there's no way that kid's in this age bracket for whatever sport it was.
So right after high school, then I mean, you obviously played basketball, but what ultimately made your decision go to Penn State?
Well, it's funny when I started getting recruiting letters because my name was probably popping up just on lists like, hey, here's a freshman, here's a sophomore who's 6'6", who's 6'7", and the first letter I got from Penn State, they spelled my name wrong.
Really?
Yeah, like how do you mess up Smith? I don't know.
How did they spell it?
It was like Schmidt or something.
Oh my gosh!
I'm like, are you serious? I was like, Penn State, man, I can't even get my name right. It's a football school. Like, I'm definitely not going there. It. Meanwhile, like a few years later, I'm going there. I took visits to a few different schools. I went to a couple Ivy League schools. I visited Northwestern, Illinois, Notre Dame. And I really like the coaches at some of these places. It's funny that the coach I really liked also during the recruiting process was John Beilein.
Oh, no way. Yeah.
Yeah. Most recently the Cleveland Cavs coach. He, at the time when I was in high school, he was at Richmond. And so I had family that lived in Richmond, and he was a coach and super, super guy. I could totally see myself playing for him. But I just like Penn State a lot better. When I came on my visit here, just great teammates, really awesome sports atmosphere. I wanted to go to a big school that where athletics was big and you could play on TV, all those kinds of things. And so it was a phenomenal pick for me. I kind of came, with the intention of just doing basketball and getting my degree. And I mean, but even greater things came out of it.
Right.
I was able to meet my wife here, which was awesome. She was on the dance team at the time, so it could be a little distracting during timeouts. But
I'm sure.
But I met her. I really grew a lot in my faith as a Christian, and
That's awesome.
so there were so many amazing things that happened at Penn State. I'm forever grateful for.
Yeah, and it's cool that you mentioned the Christian thing because, I mean, I know that the top three things are like, never talk about religion or politics or anything like that. But like, I like how everybody, I feel like it's more, the bigger names and professionals, now they're all saying like, praise to God. And like, I like how that's starting to come back because I feel like that was fading out a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is still an individual, is still a person, and everybody
Right.
has their own beliefs. And, a lot of times we look at athletes and Hollywood people as like, oh, they're a great actor or they're a great athlete or whatever. But at the end of the day, like we're all more than those things, and our jobs. I heard a long time ago when I was playing basketball, I heard the speaker come in and he's like, basketball is not who you are. Basketball is what you do. And, for so long, like I had identified, as like, hey, I'm a basketball player. And part of that's true. It's part of my makeup. But at the, true core of like our identity is like, it's not truly who we are. I mean, yeah, it's a huge part of it. And that might be how we make our livelihood. And it's how I made mine for a while. But, when I was in college, I mean, hey, I really grew a lot and just, hey, what do I really believe? And, how do I kind of fit into this whole big world and what is my true identity? And I was able to find that, as a Christian and, starting to, I grew up kind of going to church and stuff, but didn't really have a solid relationship with God. And so that's really kind of what I was missing and just completely turned my life around.
Yeah, I mean, even if people don't believe them, there's so many like cool people out there. As long as you show respect and everyone shows respect back, then I appreciate him. But like that's such a cool belief because I'm a Christian as well. So I mean, I really like that when people say that stuff. But yeah. So with the news package, I like I said earlier, we spoke mostly about Penn State, related when trying to relive the 2001 series, or season and whatnot. But so I don't want to dig deep into that just because that's on my news package. That's all there. But I do want to ask one question, just because it's pretty cool. So when you entered that Sweet 16 atmosphere as a Penn State player, what was that feeling like to know that you're on almost the biggest stage for college? I mean, you're almost there, the finals. What was the Sweet 16 feeling like?
It was the best basketball highlight for sure for me during my time at Penn State. I mean, the team hadn't been that far in 50 years at Penn State. Penn State's kind of had mixed success. They'll have a couple good seasons and then maybe a couple okay ones. And so for me, I remember walking into the stadium for our very first game, and just there's March Madness banners everywhere, and you're just feeling and thinking, we are doing this, man. We were playing in March Madness, because it's such a big thing. Everybody watches it all around the country, and to actually kind of be there participating in it was such a thrill for us. So and the story I'd love to tell is when I came back after our second win. We just beat North Carolina. And we landed at like 2:00 in the morning, and I got up for class at like 8 or 9 and went to class. And as I'm walking in, the teacher is actually playing the game from the night before about beating North Carolina. And I'm like, this is crazy. It was like a finance class or something. And the teacher's got like the game going. We're not having class. We're watching the game at like Monday morning. So it was really fun. But just to see like Penn State get behind it and there'd be so much excitement for the basketball team was incredible.
That's pretty funny. It was probably at that moment you're like, all right, that's cool. I made it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then we thought, oh man, we're 2 games away from the Final Four. Like this is getting real, people. Of course, we couldn't throw the ball in the ocean from the beach the next game against Temple, but it was still an amazing memory.
Did you? I'm gonna ask one. Did you have any like superstitions or kinks before you started a game? Like, was there a certain little thing you did to get in rhythm for before game?
Yeah, I think everybody's got their routine. Mine was pretty standard, nothing like too fancy. I can remember even going through layup lines. Like I would do layup, free throw, 3-pointer, like just kind of little things that just kind of helped get you in the flow and helped you just kind of get squared away for the game. Yeah, I didn't have any real crazy routines or anything like that.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Do you stay in contact with your former teammates then from that team?
Yeah, I do as much as I can. Joe and John Crispin were buddies of mine, the Crispin brothers. Anytime people hear that I play for Penn State, like Penn State, I'm like, yeah, Crispin brothers, and they're like, oh yeah.
Oh right.
Because they were the crazy ones that would like shoot from half court and get yelled at by our coach a lot. But Joe and John are super guys. They're over in New Jersey. John's actually a announcer now, color announcer for ESPN, and he was on Big Ten Network for a while and doing great. Joe is actually the head coach for a school over in New Jersey also, for a D3 school. So super guys. Titus Ivory, he was a starter on that team, phenomenal player. He's having an awesome impact and a lot of great stuff down in Charlotte, North Carolina. But yeah, I keep in touch with all those guys, and they will sometimes come back up this way for different reunion type stuff. We usually have a Coaches versus Cancer event where we do a golf outing and fundraiser here at Penn State that they'll come back for. So for me, it's so easy because like I'm here, I don't have to go anywhere. But these guys, they'll travel back in for Alumni Day and stuff. But it's a great family to be a part of.
And you also played against the likes of, a very well-known NFLer, Julius Peppers. How was that experience?
Yes, Julius Peppers. So he was a dual sport athlete at North Carolina. And a lot of people forget that he played basketball, but he was an animal on the basketball court too. I can't imagine him like running me over on the football field. So it was nice to see him playing against him in basketball instead of on the gridiron. But this guy, he was massive. Like his arms were bigger than my legs. The dude is just a beast. He actually had the best game for North Carolina. He had 21 and 10 that game against us. And But yeah, they had a couple of first-round picks too for the NBA. Joe Forte and Brendan Haywood, who were big-time guys at the time, all Americans. And then, yeah, I mean they were stacked, but we just kind of snuck up on them with their hot shooters.
Well, I'm sure if you were to play in the NFL with that, 6'9" or 6'8", 6'9" frame, tight end, you would have been a stud against them.
I'd be lining up on the other side of Julius, probably every play.
So